Dr. Fauci gets destroyed. Finally, I love it. Let's go ahead and get into it. Welcome to today's broadcast. We're going live and we're going to be talking about Dr. Fauci. I was going to say Dr. Kevorkian, but we're going to be talking about Dr. Fauci.
The same family tree there.
Mr. Fauci, he gets destroyed.
Yeah.
And it was actually like music to my ears. It was just, I'm passionate about this, guys. For those who are watching, my name is Jacob. I'm the uncensored, unfiltered, tell it like it is, slap your mama, make some biscuits, and throw some gravy on it kind of preacher.
And I'm Jeff Shirrell, your leadership development coach and public speaker. So we are going to be talking about this, and we're going to be bringing up to light a lot of the things that a lot of us experienced. And I think MTG in this video did an amazing job of going at it. She was ready to go with the bullets loaded and ready to fire of all the things over the last few years that people have been taking and keeping record of and taking in mind and being ready to express and show. And so she brought it out there. Which one of these things, and I'm with you, like I've moved on, we're living our life. Thankfully, we live here in Arizona where it's pretty free. But which one of these things that she brings back the memories of the last 4 years for you? Mm-hmm. And how do you feel about it? What's your story? How did you guys get through it?
And when I saw this clip for the first time, it came out just like a day or two ago.
Yesterday.
I thought it was a joke at first. I saw and I said, wait a minute, what? And then you see because there's so many things that people can edit, and Dr. Fauci's sitting there, and then all of a sudden this lady's coming at him, and I didn't know who she was. And so
you've been missing out, my friend.
Once I dug into it, I said, the gloves are off. It's time to get in the ring. Let's get into it. And so it was pretty awesome.
So I think this is an interesting situation, and it's just interesting to see how this is going to unfold, because it's like opening an old wound. I feel like the world has kind of moved on from the pandemic and all the things that we were forced to do, or people was pushed upon you to try to force you to do, and people moved on in life, and now this is kind of reopening the wound because maybe things haven't healed, or maybe there's still things that you're feeling inside of you, and this video and these pictures brought some things up, and I was like, man, there's still something that needs to be worked on.
It's kind of like a cavity. When you go to the dentist, even though you may not have any pain, maybe some time has gone by, but you got to drill before you fill. And it's time to drain the swamp. And and the reason why I get so upset is because for those who don't know, my wife is a nurse, and when this whole thing happened, she was in the hot spots. She was a travel nurse. She was going to all these different places in California, and this was before the jab, all of this stuff. And she's out there, we didn't know what was really happening, but we had faith in God. And we said, you know what? God's going to keep us safe. And we were demonized because we believed that. We were demonized because we believe in healing and the power of God and the power of his word.
And his promises.
And as my wife was out there working in these hot spots, all of a sudden, as months of this has gone by, now she comes back home, and her job tells her, well, if you don't get the jab now, then you're going to lose your job. You can't come back to work. She said, wait a minute. I just worked for months in the hottest spots of this pandemic, and now you're telling me I can't work unless I get this? And I don't, and we didn't fully agree with it because it was so new.
Yep.
We didn't, the science, none of it was there. It wasn't real science. It was,
I just gotta say the science. Explain that.
And so because we took a position that we weren't going to do this.
You made a decision.
We made a decision. We were demonized by everybody. Yes. And I remember when all the churches shut down and everything, all the 6 feet distance, all this stuff was happening. I said, I'm going to go preach the gospel at the park. And that wasn't okay for a lot of people. And I could.
Yeah. So as you guys are watching and people are jumping on here, jump in the comments where you can see your comments. So we'd love to get you involved and hear, your story. This is a chance to share your story, to share how you felt. Either side, because I think that the wound needs to be opened and it needs to be fully healed.
Yeah.
And here's the thing, just like any challenge that you run into, anytime that someone's wronged you or you've done wrong, you need to, maturely and, man up or suck it up and maturely go back and be like, all right, I know that some things occurred over the last few years. And how do you do this, right? How do you go back and unpack this and heal old wounds that were, caused by this tragedy?
And for those who are watching that don't know, I am a preacher, and one of the things that is always brought up is, oh, you're a Christian, you got to forgive. And yes, we forgive for ourselves. But I will tell people, if we're going to move forward in a relationship, there's some things that happened that need to be addressed.
Yeah.
There's some boundaries that need to be set, and we need to be on the same page before we move forward. You're not just going, I'm not just going to, I forgive you, but hey, we need to work on this. We need to make this right. And to use a scripture that's in the Bible, Jesus said, if you got something against your brother got something against you, go make it right, and then come back to the altar and offer your gift. And so that's why I believe this is a big deal. There was a lot of wrong that was committed. There was a lot of overreach. There was a lot of things that were committed to the American people, lies that were given for control and domination. And now, yes, it's been 4 years since then, but people lost their jobs. Yeah. People lost businesses. People lost. There was so much things that happened between the division of families and friends, and this needs to come out. And we need to make it right.
So I think one of the big things here is there was unnecessary pain and suffering, and it was based on lies and based on an evil agenda. And so that's one of the key things here is that, it's fine. Like, hey, you have to sacrifice. I mean, that's part of the gospel too, is sacrifice for the greater good. And in this situation, as it's come out, it wasn't for a greater good. It was for an evil agenda. It was for wrong. And here's the other thing too. I understand there are hurts on the other side of this as well that are keeping people in shame and in condemnation. That doesn't necessarily need to keep them in shame and condemnation. And if they come to the topic with whoever that they were wronged with or whoever they took arms up with and say, hey, you know what, I'd really like to kind of unpack this, and can we do this together to bring healing? That would really bring some unity back to the world that has created much division.
Yes, absolutely. And there needs to be this discussion, because even the church, this was something that revealed a lot of holes within the church and a lot of faulty foundation within the church and outside of the church. I mean, just in the United States and around the world. Yeah. So we're going to get into this video, and I didn't know who this lady was. So you explain to the audience, for people that were like,
she's a firecracker.
Who is this lady?
Yeah. So real quick, and as well, like for those watching, we see you guys on here. We can see your comments. We can see your interactions. So let us know where you're coming in from. You can comment. We'll read your comments. We'll interact with them. We love that stuff, which is why we're going live. And, that will help enrich this conversation and hopefully bring some awareness. And I agree with you. Right before we get into this, as a Christian, we're called to forgive, right? Because I think that everybody that went through the last few years, you held on to things, you dealt with things, and at some point in time, hopefully you realize, you know what, this is kind of a waste of my time and energy. I'm going to move forward doing the right thing, trying to do the good stuff in the world that I'm called to do. But, I would like to go back and deal with these people that did me wrong or, accused me of things or called me names and make peace with that. And hey, let's get better together through that if we can. Otherwise, I'm going to keep moving, but it would be great to get an apology or to have that discussion. And I get it. A lot of people made these comments and they said these things, they did these things because they were scared and there was fear and they didn't want to lose things. But I think as a Christian, I know for myself that I'm like, well, if things get terrible and they are as bad as they seem, then and I have to go, or my family members go, at least we're getting upgraded, right? Death is one of the greatest fears for people. But for a Christian, it's like, okay, when it's that time to go, then I get to go to heaven, and it sounds pretty amazing.
And and that is true, but one of the things I don't like is how they demonized Christians and they divided Christians that actually had faith in the Bible and said, oh, the reason why we're gonna come against you is because the science. And so that's what we're gonna talk about today, ladies and gentlemen. We're gonna get into this.
Yeah. So Marjorie Taylor Greene, she is a firecracker. She's a big Trump supporter. She's a big MAGA supporter from Georgia, and she's a no-hold bar. She's a controversial, tell it like it is, preacher, congresswoman.
That's what I love. Yep. That's what I love.
And I'm actually very surprised you've never heard of her, because you guys are cut from the same cloth.
And and this has been my point of view every time. I don't care if it hurts. Tell me the truth. Don't lie to me. If I find out that you lied to me, I'll forgive you. But the trust that we once had is not there.
Well, and here's the thing is like one of the key elements here is when you come together, when there's been a hurt or a wound, think about this in a relationship. I don't know, my friend who's been married as well. When you and your wife have come together over a wrong and you guys unpack it in a healthy way and you apologize, are you then stronger and is your relationship stronger and bonded more, or is it more broken?
It's stronger.
Right.
It becomes stronger.
So this could be a great opportunity for you and for your family members or for coworkers to come together and say, hey, we all went through this, and what were you experiencing? What were you thinking? And we now know what's coming out as the truth.
Yeah.
And here are some things that I felt, what were you feeling? I would like to try to bury the hatchet on some of this stuff.
Instead of saying, I told you so.
Yeah.
No, you probably don't want to do that.
Yeah, I wouldn't go that way. Don't take the sword like that, but
Hey,
it's going to happen.
Let's slap your mama and make
right.
some biscuits and throw some gravy on it. Here we go. Okay, we're going to play this, and let's go ahead and get into this.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr.
Oh,
Fauci,
wait a minute.
you were quoted.
Did you do something to the audio here? The speed?
Oh, I did.
Okay.
I was reviewing the videos earlier.
Okay.
How Jeff watches his YouTube videos.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. Mr. Fauci, you were quoted on CBS Face the Nation saying it's easy to criticize, but they're really criticizing science because I represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci?
I am a scientist who uses the scientific method to gain information.
Yes, you said you represent science. Do you represent science, Mr. Fauci? Yes or no? Yes or no?
No, that's not a yes or no
Yes,
answer.
it's a yes or no.
I don't think it is.
Okay, well, we'll take that as a you don't know what you
She
represent.
just finally
I-
said what a lot of people are already thinking. You don't know what you're saying. You don't know what you're doing. Okay.
But this, as director of the NIH, you did sign off on these so-called scientific experiments. And as a dog lover, I want to tell you this is disgusting and evil.
Okay.
I think he did know what he was doing, and it wasn't good. Go ahead.
When she showed the pictures of the dogs,
Yeah.
that hit me. How many people out there are dog lovers? I have a beautiful golden doodle. She's usually in the studio.
Yep.
I have a special place in my heart for dogs and cats. You need to repent and give your life to Jesus if you love cats. I'm just kidding. But when it comes to animals like that, I understand mice and you have to do some type of experiment with something that's alive. But when it comes to that's a dog.
Yeah.
That's a beautiful creature. And that looks, that's terrible. It's terrible.
I'm not a scientist. I don't know why you would use a dog over like another, like a rat or a mouse. Not that I don't know.
Yeah.
So anyways, I hear you.
Jess, we're us in there watching with my wife, and she's like, "Are you kidding me? Like this is terrible."
You signed off on, and these experiments that happened to beagles paid for by the American taxpayer. And I want you to know Americans don't pay their taxes for animals to be tortured like this. So the type of science that you are representing, Mr. Fauci, is abhorrent, and it needs to stop. Mr. Fauci, you also represent the type of science where you confess that you made up the COVID rules, including
I didn't hear what you
6
said.
feet social distancing and masking of children.
I never said I made anything up.
You admitted that you made it up. You
I
made it
didn't
up as
say
you went.
I made it up.
So are you saying this is fake news, Mr. Fauci?
I didn't say I made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in science.
Okay. Oh my gosh. How many times did we see it on the news? How many times did we hear people talk about the 6 feet? I don't know about you guys, but I remember going to the grocery store
Or trying to.
and there was lines and you could
Stickers,
only
they're
go
still
one
there.
way. Stickers,
Yeah,
airports. You're killing grandma if you don't get if you don't wear your mask and don't get the drive-by birthdays.
Oh man.
Based on the science, ladies and gentlemen, and we were demonized. Okay.
Well, and it's very frustrating, especially when, at least for us, like you think about, like our kids were really young and in school, and they were asked to do these things, and it didn't make sense to me. And of going.
Of course.
There we go. Fun with live. It didn't make sense to me. Like, wait a second, putting a mask on so you're breathing in your exhaust, like your breath, like, it's like you can live 3 weeks or so without food. You can live 3 days, I think, without water. How long can you live without breath? So breath is very important. And then, wait, I'm breathing in the stuff that I'm breathing out. This doesn't make sense. It's breathing in your own exhaust. And being a health nerd and a biological nerd, it's like, this doesn't make sense to me. I don't think this is going to be the right thing to do. And for people to be doing this end on end and to be forced to do this and be like, oh no, this is healthy. And to be able to forced to wear these masks all day long. So you're breathing in your exhaust all day long. So you're essentially making yourself less healthy and decreasing your immune system, which is your best defense against any type of virus or bacteria. Well, the Lord or God is your best defense, and your immune system. So my focus was always, how can we build up the strongest immune system to combat this coronavirus, which is a cold virus, which, being from the Midwest, there's cold season. It happens every year. What do I need to do? Well, I need to exercise. I need to get my sleep. I need to, vitamin D, vitamin C, zinc, all those things so that I can be as healthy as possible. So when a virus of the trillions of viruses that do come against our body, my body can defeat it, or at least defeat it as quickly as possible.
Yeah. Well, and my wife being a nurse, she knew from the beginning. She's like, normal masks don't work because if you needed a mask to protect you from some type of virus or some kind of smoke or whatever you're inhaling, it needs to be an N95.
Yeah.
And
yep.
And the masks that were mass produced were not N95s. Yeah. I mean, they were just normal. And go ahead.
Well, and then the other thing. So I remember I did some research. I was watching. There was a guy who was talking, who's a virologist, who was talking about what.
Oh, that's a $5 word.
And be able to say it is another $5. Yeah. So there you go. Super chat for saying virologist. So he was like, if you're going to completely protect yourself from viruses, here's what you need to do. Yeah. Right? It's like the viruses get into your orifices, right? So you would need to protect your nose and mouth. It has to be almost air sealed. Oh, by the way, your eyes and your eye membranes, those need to be protected by goggles. So it's like, wait a second. If you really want to do this the right way, because we all need to be scared of this thing, then why are you not recommending what these virologists recommend? And just saying, oh yeah, here's this, wet blanket, which literally people were doing, and this will keep you safe. And it's like, this is not making complete sense.
No,
and for hours on end for people.
This is what didn't make sense to me. This is just me. They said, if you didn't get the jab, you're killing grandma. Okay, here's the thing. And this is with all vaccines. This is what I don't understand. If a child or an elderly person takes the vaccine, aren't they technically taking something to protect them from the unvaccinated?
Right.
So how is this a war on the unvaccinated? If you got a shot, then you're okay. You don't need to worry about everyone else. You just worry about yourself. And if you made that choice, that's your choice. But now you're okay. Doesn't matter if anybody else made it because you now have the quote unquote vaccine.
Yeah.
That's what didn't make sense to me.
It's another key thing was, as we know, when your body overcomes a virus, your body gets stronger, right? Your body learns how to battle this, and you develop then immunity to this thing. So therefore, and you can watch this on Survivor Island, when you get the immunity, then you're safe, right? So think about this. When we were all kids, and I heard this as I was during the beginning of this time of our short history here, they would have chickenpox parties. Someone's kid gets chickenpox. The moms would get together with the kids and have all the kids hang out because, hey, let's get the chickenpox, let's get through it, develop the immunity, and move forward, right? So then I was like, maybe this is the same thing. So in all honest opinion, when I heard somebody got, COVID, I was like, I'm as healthy as I've ever been because I'm home now, so I have extra time to exercise. Yeah. And maybe I should just go and try to get it and get through this. So get on the other side, and now I have the immunity, which is going to be far better than some synthetic, product that they're putting out there to say, and which is fine. Like, hey, you have two options, right? You can go through it yourself, or you can get this, this thing that will help you to get through it. Okay, great. Take your, pick your path and move forward.
Yeah, and then with me, I was given the option of going to people's houses and praying for them.
Oh, well, there you go. I like that. That's even better.
All right, let's go ahead and see what else is going on with Dr. Kevorkian. Dr. Fauci here.
Made anything up.
What did you say?
I said that it is not based in
Oh, my
science,
God.
and it just appeared.
But this
Why do you
He's
have to force
saying
us?
he's saying it just appeared.
But look at how he
mandates.
forced. Well, you know what? In the beginning, I recall, and you guys can correct me if I'm wrong, that that in the beginning there was a back and forth on whether initially it was like no, we don't need masks, and then it was like, oh no, we do, and it was like wait a second,
And he could have cleared this up. He could have said, hey,
and it's in the emails, so she'll show that later.
What does dogs have to do with anything that we're talking about today?
These are scientific experiments. This is what you signed off on. But you also told the American people they had to distance by 6 feet. They had to wear masks. But let's also talk a little bit
I got one
further
for you.
about the type of science that you represent.
So one of the very interesting things, if you really dug into what makes people healthy, and I understand this isn't something that people love to do. They want to sit in front of their Netflix and they want to eat their junk food and all this, and that's fine. That's their coping mechanism. But if you really dig into the things that make people healthy, 1, clean air, 2, exercise, right, getting out in the sun, and then 3, good health, good nutrition. Here's an interesting.
dang, those are all everything that the average American is failing.
Right. Well, and strange, they never talked about that in any of their recommendations. Just take this shot. Just take the easy pill, right? But here's the interesting thing. There was an experiment done, and it was with baby monkeys. And they did this experiment where they had baby monkeys in this, and correct me if I'm wrong, but this is what I remember, in this controlled environment, and they had 2 mama monkeys that were on either side of the room. One monkey was a wire frame of the mama monkey, but it had milk, right? It was just a wire frame of a mama monkey, but it had milk, so nutrition. Then the other monkey on the other side of the room was very soft, very cuddling, very welcoming. So it was very like the monkeys you would want to lean on that and draw close to it. But the other one had the nutrition.
Yeah.
They found that these monkeys would go to the mom monkey to be comforted, and they would do so to their death. So therefore, touching and feeling that
Interaction.
feeling that sense of warmth and closeness to another was more important than nutrition.
Dang.
And it's like, think about that, right? How much of oxytocin and dopamine, how much of those good chemicals feel when you hug somebody and you embrace them, right? That closeness, right? That healing touch occurs, right? And when isolation occurs, people get lonely, they start to they become less than versus come together and get a hug.
And I know that when I struggle with a man cold, there's nothing more that makes me feel better than my wife coming in here and saying, "Oh, come here." But do I get that? No.
What?
Get over it, Jacob. Here's some soup. Here's some oils.
Would you take some
Take
authority?
some vitamins and get yourself up.
What, Nurse Jess? Is it? No, I'm just kidding.
So let's go and see what else
Continue.
is happening with Dr. Dr. Fauci.
Mr. Fauci to
Your
you.
mask. But let's also talk a little bit further about the type of science that you represent. NIH scientists made $710 million in royalties from drug makers, a fact that's been hidden. Let's talk about the fact about, is it right for scientists and doctors getting paid by the American people, government taxpayer paychecks, to get patents where they're paid millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in royalty fees, especially when the NIH and these government agencies, most powerful agencies in our country, are recommending medical suggestions
So
and advice?
who got the royalties?
I don't know. I haven't done the research, but I'm sure you could follow the money trail.
Yeah, I just want to see what was on that sign. It said, so the NIH scientists, the scientists that were involved made $710 million in royalties. The actual scientists, not the organization, not the.
I'm sure there's a lot of people that got paid. Now, here's an interesting fact that I will say that praise God for putting me in the right place at the right time to hear the information. I used to work for a pharmaceutical company, and I used to do the pricing, right, which is always very interesting. And in a meeting that I had with the director of product development, which is your pharmaceutical products, he was a very transparent, very cool guy. We used to work out together, and we sat down. And he goes, hey, do you know how long it takes to make one product? Because I was talking to him, I was like, why are these things so expensive? He's like, wait a second, let me step back real quick with you, son. And I was like, okay, great. And so I'm like, no, I have no idea like how long it takes to make, one product. He goes, on average, we'll start with 10 ideas. And if we are lucky, in 10 years, we will get one that will go to market. For all of the experiments and all the experimentation and trying to make sure that this is safe, this is healthy, then going through each of the 3 FDA approvals, which does so much analysis and testing and research. If we are lucky, of the 100 ideas that we come up with for a pharmaceutical product, in 10 years, we might have one that gets to market. And I was like, whoa. I was like, that's amazing. So it was a little odd to me this guy had been in the game for a long time. He was telling me how this game worked. This was in 2016.
Mm-hmm.
And then it's like, wait, we have this new virus in 2020. And then suddenly, 1 year or 18 months later, we have a magical shot. Now, here's the thing. It's not a vaccine. It was never approved as a vaccine. It was a what was it? An emergency therapy or something like that.
Yeah.
So it is not a official vaccine. And it's like, yeah, I'm aware of how long it takes for these things to go through the official process to make sure that they're safe. And the immune system and immunity aspect still seems like the better option than this risky item.
Yeah.
Who knows what the long-term effects even are?
And then we were demonized for that.
We were extremely criticized and jobs were threatened and all that stuff.
$1 million in royalties from drug makers, a fact that's been hidden. Let's talk about the fact about, is it right for scientists and doctors getting paid by the American people, government taxpayer paychecks, to get patents where they're paid millions and hundreds of millions of dollars in royalty fees, especially when the NIH and these government agencies, most powerful agencies in our country, are recommending medical suggestions and advice and making up guidelines like 6 feet distancing and masking of children.
Well, let's take a second there. That wasn't just suggested.
It was enforced.
that was just
practically the law.
Oh my
Do you think
gosh.
that's appropriate? Do the American people deserve to be abused like that, Mr. Fauci? Because you're not doctor, you're Mr. Fauci in my few minutes. No, I don't need your answer. I want to talk about this right here.
Mr. Chairman,
Fauci,
objection.
I reclaim
Mr.
my
All right, we're going to move forward because and she just kind of talks
back.
about what do you call it?
No, they go on.
I-
But if you skip past. Oh, actually, that was pretty good.
And he belongs in
Gentlelady will
prison.
suspend. The gentlelady should recognize the doctor. It's part of legislation.
This is where they kind of tell her something about
Please tone it down.
call him doctor. I'll call him Dr. Kevorkian. That's his new name.
All right, let's see.
For crimes against humanity.
We're going to find out.
First pitch at the Washington Nationals baseball game, while Americans were
Okay, so
For
that's
character
kind of
an
upsetting.
member.
first pitch at the Washington Nationals baseball game, while Americans were forced to stay home and watch such events that they love from at home alone on their televisions. And what a hypocrisy this picture shows. Here you are without your mask, with empty seats everywhere. Remember the cardboard cutout fans? That was one of the most insulting things to Americans, having to watch the games from home, where you got to go and enjoy the game and sit right next to people not following the 6 feet of distancing, not wearing your mask, and everyone else was forced to stay home and stop enjoying life. And your science here, your science is displayed.
So this is embarrassing. If I was okay, for those who are watching, do you guys see this? Okay, I'm gonna see if I can make this picture bigger. That's embarrassing. Kids in these, it's like the kid in the plastic bubble. And this really happened.
Mm-hmm.
Like this wasn't like this would be a joke. And here's these kids in these little tents playing instruments at a school recital.
So here's the tough part.
Uh-huh.
people's children are more important to them than themselves.
Yeah.
It's already hard enough. I mean, think about the things that you had to do or you did during this time, which, please go through the process of forgiving yourself for anything that you feel still ashamed about. Because I know that there are things that, not wearing a mask and not wanting to comply to that and not feeling that it was necessary, for the spaces and places we were going. And we're not like going into the hospital or things like that. It was just like, it's just like, hey, we don't agree with this. It doesn't reconcile with what we believe in and what we feel. But then to have to force your children to go do these things, or for the kids, think about that. It's like, I have to go and play, and like, I don't, maybe they didn't feel right, but they're being forced to do these things.
Yeah.
That's even tougher.
And what was interesting, and not a lot of press was covered on it, but how many young adults, young people took their lives because of the isolation, of the fear, of the science, of everything that was being exposed in the media, and things like what we're saying was literally suppressed, shut down. Actual credible doctors who were coming out against the narrative were they were shutting them down, and coming against and persecuting them.
So one of the things, my wife, she has battled and overcome bipolar 2 depression and gone through depression, postpartum depression, and become an advocate for that for women. And when this all came out, like, hey, everyone's going to stay home, distance and all that, her and I both looked at each other, we're like, the real pandemic that's going to come through this is the mental health pandemic. And if that wasn't the truth, I think that there was way more, way more of an impact on mental health, especially amongst teenagers, than anything else, than any of the other repercussions of this, this illness.
And I like what they're doing here, because Anthony Fauci was the face of this.
Right.
He was out there pushing this.
Yeah.
And
I mean, he had a choice.
Yeah.
You could have not pushed these things or not gone and taken up this stance, but he did.
Yep.
Perfectly in this picture were children in school were put in plastic bubbles because of your science, your repulsive, evil science. And let's go back to your very own email. You said earlier you don't use email. Oh, you do. Right here. This is your own email.
February
where you
5th.
said the typical mask you buy in the drugstore is not really effective in keeping out virus. I do not recommend that you wear a mask. This is your email. This is your own words.
Now, do you remember that being shared in the news?
No, it wasn't shared in the news. But I remember when it came out and it was like, because I was, very attuned. I think a lot of us were. And I remember seeing that. And then I was like, okay, I'm like, because I don't agree with that based on the research that I've done. And then it flipped. And it was like, come on.
Yep. It's just.
And as well, by that point in time, I was like, yeah, because it doesn't make sense, especially with what these virologists are saying is true viral protection.
Yeah.
Go ahead.
But yet children all over America were forced to wear masks. Healthy children forced to wear masks, muzzled in their schools. And then they were forced.
Unfortunately, it wasn't just the kids that were muzzled. It was credible doctors. It was people that were going against the narrative on YouTube. People were losing their channels.
Yeah.
People were getting kicked off of Facebook.
Yeah.
People were getting shut down for saying anything contrary to the machine.
And the thing that is kind of frustrating as well is that here are the precautions. If you're concerned about your health, then here are the things that we recommend. Okay, great. But if you feel safe, then you should be able to go and live free. If you why did we have to cower to the weakest link?
Yeah.
Why do we have to bow to the weakest link? Versus, hey, you know what? We'll bring all your food, all your TV stuff, all your work to you in your safe environment. It's the same thing. It's like we don't tell people who have a low immune system or cancer risk in the hospital, hey, just go run out in the world. It's like, no, stay in the safe environment. We'll keep it clean. We'll keep it as healthy as possible for you while you heal and restore. Not, hey, the whole world's going to come to a screeching halt and scrub itself, dry so that, a few people.
Well, what it was is it was a power grab. It
Turned out
was,
to be.
yeah. And I don't think I think that's what it was from the beginning.
I mean, when you look now
might.
at the roots and you dig in, you start
Yeah.
to see what was really driving it.
Forced to learn from home because of your so-called science and your medical suggestions, while you and all your cronies get paid from Big Pharma. You know that what this committee should be doing? We should be recommending you to be prosecuted. We should be writing a criminal referral because you should be prosecuted for crimes against humanity. You belong in prison, Dr. Fauci.
Mr. Chairman, I have another point of order.
I recognize Ms. Dingle.
Just want to make sure the record is clear.
Yeah, I think that's where we
Yeah.
end her statements. Pretty powerful statements. And apparently other people on the board had some things to say. They just, they wanted her to address, him as doctor.
There's another congressman in there that goes and fires away too. He did a great job also.
Oh, okay.
And so, these things are coming out and people have been kind of preparing and are ready. And now, it's time to come to the altar on this and, have to, deal with the repercussions and realize, the truth of the matter. And, there were transgressions, there were wrongdoings.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
And is it just, hey, this was the best information I had and I was making my, the best decision at the time, or was there something else?
And I think this is important for us to rehash. And the reason why is because if we don't know the past and we don't evaluate it, the past always repeats itself. And so we are prepared for what's coming. And the way that things are happening in the government, the things that are being revealed, the stuff that's going on, I believe there is a lot of stuff going on under secret and hidden for a long time.
Yeah.
And now it's starting to get exposed.
Yep.
And it needs to.
Yeah.
It needs to get exposed.
Come to light. Yeah.
Come to the
The
light.
truth always comes out. So
And just like this, what is it? Amen. Faith over the devil. The devil jabs. Absolutely. I think this is important, and I'm glad you guys are watching this video. This is something that was really important to us to share on, and I want to be doing some more lives when it comes to some of the things that are coming out. I just watched the interview with Trump Jr. Absolutely amazing. The first interview with Trump Jr. with Tucker Carlson, and then the first interview with Trump and the three host from the Fox News. Absolutely amazing interview. And we need this uncensored to come out so the American people are seeing what's happening.
Yeah.
I mean, if you're not already indoctrinated and complete, like there's people on the Democrat side, on the left side saying, wait a minute, I don't agree with Trump. I don't like him. I would never vote for him, but this is wrong.
yeah.
This is wrong.
Yeah.
And we need to be able to say, you know what? Right is right, wrong is wrong, and something's fishy here.
Yeah, and if there are things where you're like, wow, I now that I know more, or I've learned, or I've seen things unfold, I was wrong, and that's okay.
Yeah.
You know?
There's power in admitting, I was watching Patrick McDavid, and they had Chris Cuomo on there, and they were trying to, wring an apology out of him.
Yeah.
And they were showing clips of stuff that he said, and he just wouldn't
Danced around. Yeah.
And there's nothing, in my opinion, there's nothing wrong in saying, hey, look, when I said this, this is what I thought. I've changed. And I've heard that from Tucker Carlson many times. He said, when I was a reporter 10 years ago, I thought things and said things that I don't take the same stance now. And I've moved. I've changed my position.
Yep.
And that's okay.
Yeah. So grow, learn, come together, and help each other get better.
Yeah. If I was wrong, then I would say, hey, you know what? I made a mistake. I was wrong. I shouldn't have did that. But I'm not. And so now I'm looking at you saying, I freaking told you so. That's the unfiltered, uncensored, slap your mama, make some biscuits, and throw some gravy on it, preacher. Well, I still love you. So, guys, thank you for clicking on today's video. Don't forget to leave your comments in the comment section. When we go live, we can see that, and we can comment, and we can talk with you guys or read your comments if it's appropriate for our show. And don't forget to like, subscribe, hit the notifications, and also support this channel by the super thanks and the super chats when we're live, and then also that little subscribe button. I know I've said it before, but that little subscribe button makes a great it's a great support for this channel. What's up, Alex? Thank you,
Alex,
for putting the for joining us on this. So we're gonna end today's broadcast. Yep. We love you. God loves you, and until next time, God bless.